Welcome everybody. Thank you for being here with us on this Wednesday. Uh, I see a few folks here um that are with us. Just a reminder that this meeting will be recorded for those that intended to make it but couldn't make it, you know. Um, for those that don't know me, my name is Efrain Ortiz. I'm the membership and outreach coordinator here with Initiate Justice. Um, I want to start off by saying, please excuse me. My allergies have been killing me today. So if I go on and off camera, please excuse me. Um, so if this is your first time here, if you can fill out this form here that one of my colleagues will drop. There's someone that waiting. That one of my colleagues will drop in the chat. But let us know where you're calling in from. I see some familiar faces. Hi, Teresa. Hi, Raul. Sasai, Paloma. See Khalifa. Welcome. Hopefully we get a couple more folks that join in right now. But first of all, I want to say who's feeling stressed out with this election coming up? Who has opened up their ballots? I opened it up and I closed it right back up. So if I'm feeling that way, I was like, our community's feeling that way. I was like, and we have to do something about it. Let's have a conversation, especially us that are impacted by incarceration. Um, if you can, please stay muted. Um, Raise your hand. Uh, there'll be plenty of opportunities for you to speak, for you to talk. Um, we ask that you do raise your hand just to, take out all that other noise. And then, like I said, use the chat to introduce yourself. I see a couple people already doing it. Appreciate it. Um, I will, I, I will pass it actually over to my colleagues, so they could introduce themselves. I'm joined by two of my amazing colleagues who are supporting me tonight.
Hi, everyone. For those that might not know me, I'm Adriana. I'm the statewide advocacy manager here at Initiate Justice. So it's a pleasure to be in space. Thank y'all for choosing to spend your Wednesday evening. Is it Wednesday? It's Tuesday. I'm
Tuesday.
sorry. I'm sorry. I'm so used to these still being on Wednesdays.
I want it to be Friday already.
So thanks for being with us on this Tuesday evening. We really appreciate y'all. I'll pass it over to Alyssa.
Hi everyone. Hi everyone. It's a Fines Friday. But
Yes, it
my name's
is.
Alyssa. I'm excited to be in space with y'all. I'm the executive assistant here at IJ. Um, and like I said, excited to be in space, go through this ballot with y'all together. Not the ballot, but like talk about the voting together. Because I am also overwhelmed. I saw that governor list and I was like, there's no way this is all just for one position. So I'm also feeling overwhelmed, so excited for this conversation, because I've been having these tech conversations with my community, family, friends, and all my amazing people in my life. Yeah, I'll pass it back to Efrain.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you very much. I was texting Theo. I think he's having trouble getting in. Um, so tonight we have a couple of quick organizational updates, and then uh we're gonna jump into a conversation. Like, let's have a conversation, right? Like, how are we feeling? Do we care about voting? Right? Like, what's going on? Is it overwhelming us? How are our families feeling? How's our community feeling? Like, all of that. Have a couple like prompt questions that we'll have, but like really, I just want to have a real conversation, right? Because I've talked to folks, right? Like I've talked to folks who are like, "Oh, my my vote doesn't matter," right? I used to think that way. So, um, and that's okay. Like if people feel that way, that's okay, right? But we have to let's have a conversation and talk about why our voices do matter, why we should be casting our votes, um, and and how can initiate justice support you, right? Obviously, I will say this: we are a 501(c)(3) organization, um, so we do not endorse candidates. Like we can't tell you to vote for this person, that person. Um, but we do want to make sure that people are registered to vote, right? We passed Proposition 17 in 2020. We want to make sure our community is engaging in this process, right? I know growing up for myself, it was something that wasn't pushed upon that wasn't pushed upon myself. My parents didn't talk about it, and now I sit down with my dad and like have these conversations, right? So we'll do that. We have some resources for you all for people that are like, okay, where do I turn to? How do I know, right? Because there's so many people on that ballot. Um, so we have some resources for you all to check out, and then we'll close. We have a couple calls to action, some up and coming events, um, and then we'll close. So with that, I'll kick us off with the organizational updates. Sorry. So I see a few folks here that were there for the Road to Democracy report um mail night. So I do want to say thank you very much. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for being there in community with us. And we together we were able to mail out 466 reports to inside organizers and members, as well as 119 community partner organizations. So I appreciate you all that showed up. If you all have not checked out our report, um, please check out our report, and one of my colleagues will drop the link there. If you have a loved one inside that might want to have that report, we have a form there that you can fill out. Just put their name, CC number, etc., and we'll mail them a copy as well. With that, I'll pass it over to Adriana with some more organizational updates.
Thanks, Efrain. So, really, really quick, I just want to let folks know if you haven't heard already or seen on our social media or on our website or anything else floating around out there in the hemisphere, our applications for our summer 2026 Institute of Impacted Leaders cohorts are currently open. And so they opened at the beginning of the month. They opened on the 4th of this month, and they will be closing on June 1st. And so the locations for these cohorts this summer are going to be in Los Angeles and the Coachella Valley. So if you're in either of those areas, definitely please feel free and be encouraged to apply. The Institute of Impacted Leaders, for those that may be unfamiliar, is a 12-week organizing and training program that is really all about making sure that those of us who are most directly impacted by incarceration are at the forefront of determining what the solutions are when it comes to making our communities safer. And so this program teaches folks how to organize in their community for solutions at the statewide level. We also talk about the policy process, how a bill becomes a law. And we also share a little bit of know your rights information, like for reentry or even visiting CDCR and what that looks like and how do we navigate through those systems. And so this program is all about equipping us with the tools and unlocking our power. One of the things that I frequently say about this program is just about our community in general is a lot of the time so many of us have felt like our power has been taken away from us, and this program is simply here to remind us that our power has not been taken away. We just have to remember how to access it, and so that's what this program is about. I could go on for days and days and days about this program, but we are going to drop some information into the chat if we have not already done so, where you can apply for this cohort. Yes, I see somebody put in the chat, all of our staff are graduates. Yes, all of our staff have taken this program. I graduated from this program in 2019, and it led me to a lot of other really great opportunities, working alongside folks advocating for really great policy work and other community organizing campaigns. And so the application link can be found at tinyurl.com/impacted leaders application. You can also find on our website in that same sort of little area an FAQ document as well. And so the FAQ document really talks outlines usually the top few questions that folks usually have about the Institute. Who qualifies? Do you have to be a resident of California to participate? Expectations and things like that. So all of that can be found on the FAQ. But of course, if you do have questions, you go over there and you look at the application, you do have questions, feel free to drop it in the chat, or you can reach out to me directly and I'm happy to answer any and all questions. I'm dropping my email in the chat as well. So again, this is a 12-week program. It will be hybrid. And so it will be half in person, half on Zoom. And then the best thing also about this program is that we provide a lot of support to folks who are going through this. So in terms of barrier support. So if you are concerned that maybe participation might be difficult due to gas prices, or having to purchase gas or travel or public transportation or anything like that, we provide barrier support to offer for folks to be able to fully participate. We also provide childcare stipends as well, so that if you do have little kiddos, and you're needing to arrange childcare for the cohort, for the duration of the cohort, for the in-person weeks, we support with that as well. So we provide food for the in-person sessions as well, and folks who graduate get a $500 stipend upon graduation. And so it's super dope program. If you've heard about it, or you've graduated, I see a couple of folks here who graduated from the program. So feel free to uplift your experience in the chat, but definitely look forward to seeing more folks apply. We have a couple weeks left until the deadline, and then next week, on Tuesday on our Instagram, we will be doing an Instagram live talking a little bit more about the Institute of Impacted Leaders cohort, how to apply, where to apply, logistics, dates, times, and things like that. So please feel free to drop your questions in the chat. If you have any, I'm happy to answer. But other than that, we have dropped the information into the chat. So head on over there to that tiny URL, get more information. And if you are called to, please apply, and we look forward to having you. That's it for me. I will pass it, unless there's no questions, I will pass it back to you, Ephraim.
Yeah, I was gonna say any questions for Adriana since we have her here. So who's applied? Show of hands. Show of hands. I see a couple people that applied already. I see a couple people. Sase, I see you over there. Raul, I see you. Teresa. All right, Paloma. Awesome. But yes, if you have any questions, Cindy, I see you drop in the chat. And Kendra, thank you very much for dropping a little salesman pitch right there. Kendra graduated last year's cohort over in San Diego. Um, but yes, if you have any questions, reach out to Adriana, and I'll pass it over to Alyssa with some of our co-sponsor bill updates.
Hi everyone, I'm holding it down for our policy team. So just quick updates. AB 1851 authored by Assemblymember Gibson passed the Assembly Appropriations Committee on Thursday, May 14th, which is great. A lot of bills die on suspense, so we're grateful that our bills passed. Um, Especially because if they cost money, they're like, oh, we don't want to make more money, that's going to cost more in the budget. But yeah, well, and now it's going to be on the assembly floor. And then we also now have us up next is AB 1958 by Cara that also passed the Assembly Appropriations Committee on Thursday, May 14th, and will now move to the assembly floor. If you want to learn more about these bills, we're going to drop a link about just learning about these two bills that we're working on this year. And then another thing ask we have is that we have a call to action. So AB 1851 by Gibson, as I just said, is on the assembly floor. So with that in mind, we're asking if you all can just send a quick email to your assembly members, and we'll drop the link. It should only take like 2 minutes max. While we were waiting for y'all to join this call, we were talking and we're also doing it, and it took us like 2 minutes. You just put your information from your address, they find your assembly member, script's already written, you just press send, and you've now emailed your assembly member. So it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. But if you have any questions about it, feel free to just let us know. And we're hoping that it passes the assembly floor. And then we have the next push in the Senate. Yeah, those are some updates. Feel free to reach out to any of us if you have any questions. And thank you all in advance for doing that quick email. We appreciate it. And I know I will be emailing my assembly member again tomorrow, and he will hate to see me coming, but you know what? He's my assembly member. And that's all on my end, but feel free to reach out if you have any questions. I'll pass it back to Efrain.
Yes, I always say it takes all of us, right? It takes all of us to push these bills through. So if you do have a quick second, as Alyssa mentioned, we did it right before the meeting today, and it was fast. And I always say this: feel free to personalize it. We have a language already written, but if you feel called to, personalize it, right? Um, so thank you all again. Um, so as many of you know, yesterday was the last day for people to register to vote online, right? Is everybody here registered? Don't be shy if you're not. See, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Awesome. Y'all make my job easy, you know that? But I do want to say, like, if you are not registered, if you didn't meet the deadline for yesterday to register to vote online, you can still vote. So please let your loved ones know, let your neighbors know, um, you know, your community members, whoever it is, right? Your family, like, and they could check their status. We'll drop a link in the chat right now so they could check their status if they haven't received their ballot or whatever it might be. But they can still vote. It'll be a conditional ballot, a conditional ballot, and all that means is they'll count it once they verify that you're eligible to vote and all that stuff, right? So please let your family members know, your neighbors know, your homies know, your homegirls, right? Let's make sure we get out there and vote, um, and do that, right? Did you drop that in the chat? Yes. Okay. So as I mentioned today, um, and earlier when we jumped in the meeting, like I'm feeling so overwhelmed with this ballot. Like I opened it and I was like, and then I got to the governor section and I was like, next page. And I was like, okay, let me just close this, right? It's a lot. Um, but we still have to it's our duty, right? It's our duty to have our voices heard. Um, it's our duty to be involved in this, right? Uh, Many of us are system impacted, formerly incarcerated, right? And uh as I mentioned earlier, like it was something that growing up for me wasn't talked about. Like my family never said like, "Hey, get involved, vote," all that stuff. Like it wasn't that. It was like survival, right? Um, now that I came home and all that, it's something that I care deeply about. Something that I have these conversations with my family about, right? Like as I mentioned earlier, you know, I I enjoy sitting down with my dad and like talking about the people that are on the ballot, right? And why or why not. Um, and I was sorry. I was like, I get emotional thinking about it, right? Because I lost my mom. She's no longer here, but like having that moment with my dad, like, um, it means the world to me. It means the world to me. Being able to talk about some of this stuff and actually cast votes and do the research and do the work, um, because as we all know, our voices are powerful, right? Our voices are powerful. We have been plagued by the system, pushed away from the system, right? And here at Initiate Justice, we make sure that we're part of those conversations. We're part of that. We're having these conversations with these representatives. We're doing all of that stuff, right? So I wanted to take time today to just have like a real honest conversation with all of you all, right? And I do want to say like there's no judgment, right? Our beliefs are our beliefs. Um and but I do want to have like a genuine, authentic, real conversation. I'll never say that this is a safe space, but I will say this is a brave space, right? This is a space where we're gonna curate for ourselves to have these conversations. So I have a couple prompts. Feel free to drop uh your answers in the chat. If you don't want to come off mute, feel free to raise your hand. Um, but I do have a couple prompts to like kick us off, and let's go. First of all, what comes up to mind when you hear the word voting? And anybody, feel free to raise your hand, come off mute. But what comes up for you when you hear the word voting, bro?
Well, for me, when I hear the word voting, is just like you're expressing your voice. You know, what I mean, you're contributing to society because, like, if you don't vote, then what are you complaining about? Like, a lot of people complain about this, about that, but yet, what do you do about it? And voting, at minimum, is the most basic thing. If you're not out there advocating, trying to make a change, fighting for the change, the least you could do is put a check in they mail you the ballot, put a check on it and give it back to the mailman. That's easy. And, every vote counts. Every vote counts. For like when people don't vote because they take something for granted, oh, it's going to vote, it's going to pass. No, if it passes by an overwhelming majority, then that shows the legislators that how important that is to us as a society.
Thank you, Rose. Thank you for sharing that, and you brought up a couple of like great points. I'll let Adriana go. You're on mute.
I
You-
am on mute. I am on mute. I lowered my hand and started talking. I'm tired, y'all, so y'all have to forgive me. Um, what was coming up for me when I thought about, what comes up for when I hear the word voting? I think about, a few years ago, maybe 3 years ago now, at the end of this year, my grandfather will have passed away 3 years ago. And when we went back to Kansas, to be with family back there, one of the things I learned about his mother, which was my great grandmother, was how much she was very involved and actively involved in civic engagement. And at a time when she herself did not have the right to vote and did not have many other rights as not just a woman, but as a Black woman. And so, to me, it just feels like family legacy a little bit. And it just feels like, yeah, I'm honored to continue to show up at the polls and at the ballot box, representing that legacy of, change, of, pushing through, of, organizing for a better tomorrow. And so that's what comes up for me.
Anyone else want to go? Go for it, Daniel.
Yeah, for me, it's voting comes to mind, democracy, the democratic right that we all have as the people, the power that we have, that we're able to have, and that all of us had fought for to get, because some didn't have that right. It's just like what Adriana was saying about her grandmother, and even what's going on, like earlier when I was at the office with Alyssa, we watched the voting rights reform in California and how they were talking about that, and not regressing back to Jim Crow days, when all the blacks, the Native Americans, Latino, no, we didn't have those rights. We were all second class citizens, and important in using that, because since we have to be able to change that. And I think it's so important for us that we're affected by incarceration since 2020, because we've been making such positive changes since then. So that's what comes to mind, is democracy. Like the shirts we wear, democracy needs everyone, right? So it's very important that we do take that step and we vote. If we don't take that step, we can't complain, right? Because we do have the power to at least try to make a change, try to make a difference. So that's what comes to my mind with voting. Yeah.
Appreciate that. Um, I see Valerie put something in the chat about, similar to myself, like her family didn't talk about voting, you know. One person, her grandmother, and taught her the importance of voting, right? One of the things that we'll say, like for me, like what comes up is when I first came home, um, I was advocating for Proposition 17. And when I started having conversations with representatives, and they had no clue what the hell the difference between parole, probation, right? And like there are people that are making decisions on our behalf, right? On our behalf,
Yeah,
and they had
all bad.
no clue what was going on. That was like a wake up call for me. Like, okay, I got to continue to do more. I got to continue to advocate for my people, my community. But yeah, like I think about that. Like I think about that, and like for me, that's why it's so important. Proposition 17, when it passed in 2020, it was it had the highest percentage of all the propositions that were on the ballot that year. And that speaks volumes. Um, Anybody else want to go? I see Jose over there itching.
Yeah. Yeah. If if you don't mind, to piggyback off of what Daniel was talking about, voting it's a beautiful privilege. And in these day and age, with the certain people that we have in power today, now think about this. I don't know if it's true or not, but it seems that there are people in Congress today who are looking to change the 14th Amendment. Now, think of the consequences of that, what that means to people of color. That's crazy. So, voting is something we need to be more aware of. We need to do. I feel it's an obligation, not just for the people today, but for the people tomorrow.
Yep.
So that's why I'm just here trying to gain as much knowledge as I can to make sure that I can spread the word properly.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah,
It's crazy to see what's happening right now, right?
yeah,
What's happening in the southern states. A couple of our team members are watching the floor session last week. Uh, with the representatives here, um, backing up the Voting Rights Act and making sure that, that stays here in California. Um, but yeah, it's wild to think about. I saw something yesterday where there was a lady who marched during the civil rights, you know, and here she was yet again marching again. It's wild. Um, the next question I'll ask is for folks is like, do you feel connected to this political process? And why or why not? Like, I know some of y'all like I know for myself when I came home I was like I didn't know nothing about policy, nothing about this work, you know. But even now that you all been home or some people that have loved ones that are involved, do you feel connected to the political process?
Uh, I'll say something on that, if Efrain. Uh,
Huh?
I I somewhat don't feel the connection, and that's probably because uh some of what I believe in and some of the politics I believe in is a lot different, and I don't feel like a lot of the people are really representing people like us, that come from the subcultures that were incarcerated to an extent, but I just don't feel like it doesn't feel the same. And then some people I talk to, I'm a Rastafarian. I'm in touch with the Ethiopian church. I go to the Ethiopian Orthodox Church every week, and a lot of them they're kind of really against a lot of politicians, and they believe they're like none of them are really for the people. That they're more so corrupt, and you do see that, and I think you're always going to see some sort of corruption in all of it to an extent because everyone's going to want people to see it their way, right? So it's kind of I kind of don't feel connected. It's like, man, I'm voting. I mean, it's cool. I'm voting for this or that, but it could make a change. But in all reality, how much more is it going to help people like myself, or people like us that have all these things in common? So it's yeah, I I kind of don't feel like I'm connected to it.
Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate that. I appreciate your
Yes,
honesty.
yes.
Uh, I saw Teresa with your hand up.
I feel the total opposite. I feel the most connected to it, and I feel like the way I look at it is My voice might not be able to change the law today, but it's going to cause change. The same way that we changed, we didn't change overnight. The same thing with the laws. Every time I go to Quest for Democracy, because I've been there a couple of times, I get a little more confident and a little braver to speak to more people. And every time I do, like this last time around a couple of weeks ago, speaking to the assemblymen and the senators and stuff, it like seeing that little, when you're telling them your story, when you're telling them about the one you want them to pass or speak on, or talk about, like seeing that moment of because they never saw it that way, or because they never understood it that way, the same way you were saying they had no idea about difference between probation and parole. Like when they connect that one dot or that one seed or that one grain that you leave behind for them to maybe have a conversation with the next person and then the next person. And the more we talk about it, the more, like how you said when you were beating the pavement with Prop 17, it's like the more people we reach, it's work. Just like it took work for us to change internally, it's going to take work for us to make change outwardly, if that makes sense. So I feel to it more connected than ever today because I'm talking more about it. So I'm having more of these conversations with people, and I'm letting people know my story or where it mattered to me, like mental health inside, or like with people that are still dying in there, or people like with the heat and things like that. Like I lived it, so therefore me telling them about it gets somebody else to know about it. And eventually those ripple effects will cause a change. Eventually those laws will pass, and eventually they will make it all the way through. That's all.
Absolutely. Mic drop. Raul.
Yeah, I feel very connected to the legislative process and the system. I owe my freedom to that legislative process. Those doors are open for us. Uh, Nothing is given to us. Like just like every other organization or group of people, we all have to fight for it. And understanding that nothing is a given just because we're here, like everything should go our way. I don't believe that. What I mean? That's what these organizations do. That's what Initiate Justice does. That's what Curb does. That's what a lot of things do, because it's a struggle. It's not just us, it's our society. And you have a million different people pulling a million different ways. And it just, timing is important. The political climate is important. But when the timing is right, we get those things that we're pushing. Without the youth offender laws, SB 260, 261, Senate Bill 394, I wouldn't be right here. I was sentenced to life without parole at 17 years old. If there wasn't a space for us there, I wouldn't be here right now today. I would still be serving my sentence in prison. And I could go down to my assembly member, my senator, either state or federal, and I will be able to talk to somebody and my voice will be heard. They might not act on it, but hey, they're going to hear me out. It's not a closed door. So yeah, I think for all of us that got out of prison, we get free phone calls. We had free phone calls. I could still talk to people. Yeah, I feel connected to it, man. They recognize us now. They're passing they're passing laws to make it easier for us to get jobs. Who's doing that for us? Let's think about the things that we already benefited from for people that they don't know, for people that committed a crime. To me, that's big, because I was told that I'm worthless, I'll never be anything, and die in prison. And here these legislators go giving us a lot of stuff. Especially when I watched the budget. I just watched the assembly budget hearing the other day. Yesterday, as a matter of fact, I think it was. And they're on CDCR about the things that happen in the women's prison. Hey, what are you guys doing about that? Because we don't see nothing in this budget for that purpose right there. What's happening to the guards? You guys aren't taking the certification. And then they found out that the certification that the guards have isn't the official California state certification for peace officers, but it's something that CDCR does on their own. But it mirrors that. Peace officers on the street get decertified. maybe we should pass for a law that if they get fired under bad terms, that they get decertified under state law for a correction officer. You know, there's so many, there's room for a lot of stuff, but yeah, I feel connected. I went on a little one. I apologize, but yeah, I feel very connected because, like, I'm here to do the work. I'm here to do the work. I got fight in me. I have, you know, that's why I'm here. But yes, I do feel connected. If I didn't feel connected, I wouldn't be showing up to places like this. Thank you.
I can hop in and share some thoughts as well. I'll be super brief. I think for me, at this stage of my life, I think I've gone through various stages where I felt, maybe, first getting out and feeling disconnected, because, I'm fresh out. Having been out for 11 years now, I'm at a stage in my life where I feel connected, but I really wish the process looked differently. And I feel like a lot of folks resonate with that. I feel like we are caught in this, you know, two-party system that really doesn't work for folks and like on either side of the coin. And so I really wish that we just had more of a intentional process that really reflected like the actual makeup of our state, of our nation, that wasn't just so, polarized, right? Because I think that community members in general, we're a lot less polarizing than that in real life. Like we have a lot more things in common. We care a lot about the same things, same issues, and things like that. So I really wish that we had like a political makeup that looked like that, you know what I mean, that reflected that. And so I think that is what I'm mostly struggling with in this part of my life going into this election season where I'm just like, especially with the amount of candidates that we see, it's just like the ballot fatigue is real. And so I'm just like, yeah, I feel connected. I don't feel disconnected, but I just wish that it felt better and that it reflected real life. You know what I mean? So that's where I'm kind of at with it. But I think that I'm really encouraged by all of you because, as long as we keep pushing, we can get to a place where our political process and our systems really do reflect the actual makeup of our communities. And so I'm just looking forward to the day that happens, even if it doesn't happen in my lifetime. Like I look forward to the day with it happening for someone in this life. That's all.
I have a question.
Shoot.
Go ahead, Jose.
Okay, after we cast, I don't know if I'm getting off topic here, but after we cast our ballots, everything's counted, everything is done. Where does the accountability come from? The reason I ask that is because when I was in Lancaster prison, millions of dollars was given for the YOPs. Now, when it came to the YOPs in Lancaster A Yard, the CRM, which is a community resource manager, she hired a bunch of inmates to teach these YOPs or to help them. No pay numbers, and they were volunteering. So where did all that money go? Where's the accountability come from after we vote on this and it gets passed?
A really great question. I think it comes from us as community members. And so one of the things that we teach in the Institute of Impacted Leaders, for example, is your assembly member works for you, right? Whether it's your assembly member, your state senator, whether it's you're at the federal level, whatnot, but we focus more so on the state, so I'll speak to that. Your representatives work for you, right? You vote them in as constituency. You guys vote them in, right? And so they answer to you. And so when you see something that has been implemented either through passing a standard state law through the legislature, or like we voted on something on the ballot, but you see in your community like it's not being implemented, or you have questions on the implementation, or like you said, like who do you hold accountable for these things? That's who you go to. You go to your state representative, your state assembly member, especially when it's focusing on CDCR. You can go to them and say, hey, I know this to be true. CDCR isn't doing X, Y, and Z. How can you support? How can you help fix this? Right. And so a lot of folks who've gone through the Institute, and even folks who haven't gone through the Institute, frequently go to their assembly members when they recognize that something in a state system like CDCR or the DMV or unemployment is wrong. And they take those issues to their representative. And if you take a bunch of you with you, right? So the more constituents you have, the better, right? So if you go into your representative's office with like 5, 6, 7 people, and you're all like pushing the same issue, that creates like a little bit of a fire underneath your representative to like really do what they do, and look for the solutions and look for the answers. And then you also, as a constituent, have the ability to constantly follow up with your representative. I think me and Alyssa were just asking this earlier, like, can I double send an email to my representative? And I was like, you could send 80 million emails, follow-ups, all of the things. And so you definitely want to, long-winded, short story long, long story short, you are the one that holds your representatives accountable. And so if it's not us, then it's nobody, right? Because sometimes we can't, as humans, right? We can hold ourselves accountable, but sometimes we need other people to also do that just because we're humans, right? Same thing applies to our representatives, right? They're human beings. And so while they might have values that will hold them accountable to that, we as constituents need to go in and make sure they're being held accountable, and those policies that they're passing are being implemented fairly across the board as they are written. And if implementation work is needed, then that's when we get together as a community, we organize, we mobilize, and we create more legislation that builds on things that we need to continue to fix. So that's one of the reasons why, like with our Racial Justice Act, right, our racial justice legislation, that's like the 5th iteration of the Racial Justice Act, because we continue to build on it to make sure that implementation is going through the way that folks who worked on the original bill intended. And so, very long-winded answer, but that is the answer to like who holds these folks accountable. You do as a constituent, and then there's also like advisory boards and citizen oversight boards and things like that. There's always different groups of citizens and folks that work in certain spaces that do provide that oversight. And so I don't have an answer for you right now as to like, you should reach out to these folks. But there are different groups of citizens and different community members and just different folks that work throughout the policy process that do provide some of that implementation oversight.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That was a great question, though.
Yeah, because a lot of people usually think after they vote, they're done.
Yeah, they're like, well, I've done my job. I voted for it,
Right.
right? But yeah, there's that implementation piece. And I feel like sometimes I run into that, especially where I live in San Joaquin County in Stockton, where they might have you pass a state law, great. But then once you get down to the local level, it's not really being implemented, right, by your city council or your county board of supervisors or school boards or whomever it might be. So yeah, having to go that extra step and check in with your representative and be like, hey, do you know this isn't being implemented? Like, help me out, right? So
Right.
yeah, and a lot of people don't know that, which is why this conversation that we're having tonight, the information, the resources that we'll be providing y'all as well, so critical and important to our community members so that they can know like the fight doesn't end at the ballot box. We have to continue to pressure and make noise and make sure that the things that we have fought for continue to be implemented, continue to evolve, continue to get better.
Mhm. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just push on.
Yep, exactly. Um,
Yeah. I
go
can
ahead,
add
Leslie.
Adriana real quick. And I think to answer part of your question, when it comes to the budget, right, there's like in the legislature, there's like subcommittees, right? And like for different sectors and all that, right? I think when it comes to when you know, like, okay, I know there's funds allocated, like separated for this. It's not going to the people it's supposed to be going to. A lot of times what you can do is just like I did it right now. You can just Google like California Assembly Budget Committee Public Safety, because that's usually where CDCR is going to be at. Um, Go there, you see who's there, who's on that committee, right? And if you see who's on that committee, you can just straight out, like, I'll say contact, fill out a form. Hey, I'm reaching out about this. A lot of times, what you'll see, because even today when I was in the office watching the education committee, a lot of times representatives will bring up issues that are brought up to them. So CDCR will sit in front of them and be like, oh, what we've heard is X, Y, and Z is happening. Can you speak about that? A lot of times, CDCR has nothing to say for it, or they'll be like, we'll follow up with you. And that's how you know CDCR is being held accountable because us constituents and like community members are reaching out to these legislators, being like, I know you sit on this committee and I need to bring this to your attention because you're going to have a say on the budget. And I'm seeing this gap that's going on. So that's another way you can do it. I know Curb, if you're familiar with them, California United for Responsible Budget, they do a lot of budget advocacy where they go up to the Capitol and like give their 2 minute testimony and like these are things we're seeing and these are things you need to pay attention to. And I promise you, assembly members make note of it because in the hearing or the committee hearing after, like a week or two after, or whenever the next one is, they'll bring it up and be like, "Oh, we heard about this. Like, what can you tell me about that?" Or I'm gonna need stats on that. So that's another way you can do it. Like just simple Google search California Assembly budget, California Senate Budget Committee, Public Safety. Um, if you have it, if you've seen like discrepancies in CDCR's budget that they're not using or not using it for the right things. And CDCR is, they always claim they need more money, but what's going on with the money that they actually have right now? Um, so yeah, that's what I would add. Don't know if that answered your question, but I would say also reach out to um orgs like Curb that can connect you, but also when they're up at the Capitol, say something about what you're seeing as well.
All right. Thank you.
And then F9, do you want me to take up the next question?
Yeah, sure, jump in.
All right, perfect. My okay, so another question we have, and just because I think this is some conversation that we've been having internally with the team, or like, it's just more so, are you seeing or hearing any hesitations in your family or in your circle around voting? If so, what are they? I can start us off. For me, a lot of times what I hear from my family and just my circle is like, one, my voice doesn't matter. It's just one vote. It's not going to change majority. Especially with this election, I think a lot of the people that I know are very overwhelmed with the amount of candidates that are on the ballot. They don't know how to do their research. They're like, well, I'm seeing this on the TV, right? Or like, I'm not sure if this is true or not. How do I know if it's right information on the TV? How do I know what's credible? So I think a lot of times for my family, it gets overwhelming. And they're like, I have a mountain of other things I gotta do in my life, like pay my rent, and I don't have time to trying to figure out what's going on or right, all that stuff. So they just don't vote. So that's where a lot of my family and friends' hesitations coming from is like, I don't know how to make an educated vote, so I much rather just take a step back and not make my vote. Um, but yeah, that's what I'm seeing. Obviously, I work with them and try to change that mindset, um, but yeah, those are some things I'm seeing in my family and friends and circle, which is what makes them hesitant to not vote. Or a lot of times they're just like, can you just tell me what to vote for? I'm like, no, we could have this discussion together. Um, but yeah, that is some of the things that I'm seeing. Yes, they've told me. I have a sister who just turned 18, and she's like, I'm voting for the first time. Who do I vote for? I'm like, no, we're gonna sit down and have a conversation. Um, but yeah, don't know if anyone else wants to chime in, but yeah.
Yeah,
All
I mean,
right,
Chairman,
Teresa.
real quickly.
Yeah. You
Um,
go.
just I think some of the things that I'm sort of been hearing in my circle is not necessarily the hesitancy to vote and make a decision, but really like, choosing options, right? The amount of, and I'm gonna try to stay 501c3 friendly here. The amount of candidates that are on that ballot, right? It's overwhelming. And I think there's also some conversation even within our own communities about, the right choices to make. And I feel like some people are feeling like it's a 2017 or 2020, whatever the last federal election is again, where you're like, choosing between this or that, and then some people just don't, or they, third party or whatever, and then like we're in chaos. And so I think there's a lot of folks struggling with like, oh, I don't want to end up in chaos, right? Like we don't want, I know a lot of us are like, for me and my family, we're like, we don't want to see what's going on at the federal level go on in California. And so I think that's what we are just not struggling with, but like fearful of, and like just wondering, like, oh, how is this all going to play out?
I'll speak on this on that. Uh, yeah, with my family, they're into the voting. I was talking to my younger brother. He's been researching a lot of the candidates and the bills and stuff. So he's pretty up on that. You know, he was a political science major at UC Irvine. So and I know my dad. He's always been into voting. Uh, Even my son, he's going to start. He's kind of getting into it. A lot of their views are different than mine, but it's the same thing. Like with learning about all the candidates. Like today, I was looking at in the office. I was looking at the voter guide, and man, I was reading about all the governors, all the stuff they're trying to do. Some didn't have anything they said at all. Just gave a site, look them up, and try to vote for them. I'm like, man, how the hell am I supposed to vote for this person? So yeah, so it's sometimes it is kind of overwhelming, like with so many things are on the ballot. Like, man, oh wait, what's this? What's this position? Because like lieutenant governor, I didn't know what that was, so I started researching that. I looked at what the lieutenant governor does and all these other positions, and but I think it's good when you have time to be able to share with somebody about voting and what they can do on the research. It doesn't take it. It does take a little bit of time to look into that. But then you have like my friends, like I said earlier at my church, they're like against all politicians because they see what they're Ethiopian Americans. So a lot of in Ethiopia, they seen what damaged their country with the politicians. So over here, I'm still kind of getting a consensus as far as how they would like to vote because things in America were going to affect them as well. So those are some talks I'm looking forward to have with them when I go on Sunday in next couple of weeks. So yeah, we can all make a difference. Just got to be able to spend time and
Yeah,
teach our
thank you for
family.
that, Daniel. And
Yeah,
I do want to like acknowledge what Teresa said in the chat about like what her family says about it doesn't matter because the man in the office is gonna do whatever they want, you know. And I think that's a lot of people's sentiments, right? And I always go to remind folks that these elections, like, you know, look at the smaller things, right? Your city council member, like those things that are gonna impact you, your family, and all that stuff, right? I think oftentimes people get caught up in looking at the federal level, right? But these elections are so important because um they're gonna put the people that are gonna be on the November ballot, right? Like it's so important, right? And looking at the local level, that part right there, right? Like, we have the mayor's race, we have city councils, all of that stuff. Like looking at that part, right? And then even like your state assembly member, your state your state senator, like like those things matter. I feel like people get caught up in looking at the whole federal level, the big picture, when instead of looking at the local level, the stuff that's really gonna impact you, the people that are gonna represent you in your community. So I would say that, and that's what I tell my family because I
Yeah.
have the same sentiments as that. So it's funny you said that. Anybody else? You said the judges. I hate judges.
The judges be tearing me up when I be trying to, because and I'll be like, there's no point. No, why even put them on the ballot? You can't research them. Why even put them on the ballot? They can't even do what they need to do the same way as some of these other folks. But this is a really nice conversation. I'm really digging like all of the different insight that everybody is contributing to this. I think, it really just shows that our community has a wide range of experiences. And when it comes to family, friends, like we're not a monolith, right? Everybody has something different to offer. I'm wondering because a couple of folks have mentioned either family, hesitancy around family and friends and or other community members and things like that towards feeling voting or even feeling like disconnected from the political process, right? So curious to know like what support or information would help you or help people that either friends, family, or other community members feel more empowered to vote and participate in the voting process or in the political process, period. So yeah, wondering if anything's coming up for folks there. I think to kick it off, I think for me, when I look at my area where I live in Stockton, I think folks really need like real information, like accessible information that breaks down things into like bite-sized information or just accessible information. And I also feel like out here we have like we're Stockton is super, super diverse. But I feel like even when I was in direct services, the materials that we provided to people in terms of the languages didn't it wasn't up to par with the amount of different languages that are spoken in this city. And so I wish that we had more accessible information in all of the different languages out here. Even though folks can, they can call in, they can request all that stuff, but I wish it was just more like readily available, right? I wish it wasn't something that you had to ask for. I wish it was just like, here, we have all these things. Um, and I also think people out here we've dealt with in Stockton for many, many years, which is very similar to other places in California, like a lot of political corruption at the local level. And so there's such a strong distrust of, not just law enforcement, right? That's one thing, but of politicians out here, even down to local government, like city council and county board of supervisors. And so I think people need that trust back. But to build it, I think they need that information, right? That accessible information that organizations like Initiate Justice provides, like Initiate Justice Action, like League of Women Voters, like all of these things that provide real information and make it real for folks. I feel like still a lot of information that's out there doesn't really like it pertains, right? But it people can't really latch on to it and be like, oh yes, that fits my experience and things like that. So I think people just need information broken down for them a lot more out here and provided a lot more. And then maybe they'll feel a little bit more empowered. And then maybe if we had some people that actually cared about us in our local government, they'd feel even more empowered. Because everybody is traumatized out here. We are traumatized. We're like, no more, no more. We're just gonna run ourselves. But that's a little reflection for myself. But yeah, I open it up for anybody else to share, either in the chat or come off mute. What support or information would you feel like would be helpful for you or other folks in your community to feel more empowered to vote?
I would say it's just education, kind of like what you said, just breaking it down like in more simple terms of what people can do, what they're able to do, and basically like like stuff that we give out as Initiate Justice, where we're able to give as far as handouts, the little pamphlets we make, and the booklets. That kind of breaks down stuff simpler to what people can do that feel that they're disenfranchised or feel that they don't have a voice. Um, it could be as simple as when we share with somebody, we just bring up the topic of voting, and then we see how the conversation goes, and then we can maybe share something with someone that's a little bit less educated on what they're able to do, because a lot of us are knowledgeable to be able to share that. Um, so it would be basic education for voting rights, like the questions of what we're able to do. I think even a lot of the questions with the that I did for being an inside organizer, a lot of that was in how it showed that breaking that down is very helpful for even people out here in free society.
Absolutely, absolutely. Anybody else have thoughts on that question? I just dropped something in the chat. I didn't drop something in the chat. Now I did. Um, but yeah, this the breaking of down of and making things bite size is super helpful. I was at a tabling event maybe this past couple weekends ago, and had a conversation with a dude who's literally like, I thought I could only vote on certain things because I'm on parole, like I'm a felon and da 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 da. And I was like, no, whoever told you that lied to you, sir. There's no special ballot, right? And said so. We had to I had to educate him expeditiously because I was like, you are not walking away from my table thinking that you're going to get some sort of special ballot in the mail because you done been to jail before. I was like, no, 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 no. So yeah, and so I gave him some of the zines that we created. And he took extras, and he was like very encouraged and empowered to share that information out with some of his other bros. That he also knew that was on parole and kind of thought the same way. And so I was like, no, please let him know, spread the information far and wide. Because yeah, I don't know where people are getting this information. I never thought that I could only vote on certain things. I just thought like, oh, I can't vote, period. But I never thought that I could only vote on certain things. And so that was the first time I had heard that. So that was really interesting. So I'm glad that we were able to connect there. But yeah, people just need the education, like that real solid, truthful, no nonsense education that doesn't beat around the bush. Go ahead, Raul.
Yeah. People only, from my experience, people only tend to get involved when they feel they have skin in the game. Like when something happens and it motivates them to go vote on a particular issue, whatever. But what they don't understand is we always have skin in the game because those are the people that govern us from every day, every day, every day. And like it was mentioned earlier, it's not just voting; it's staying in the circle. It's keeping in contact with the legislator and stuff like that. Uh, but I think that people need to understand that it's not just when something affects you that you should go out and vote because everything affects us. Everything that they do, every term, every session, every hearing affects us because they're passing laws, hearing laws that literally affect all of our lives. You know, whether it's taxes, college, whatever. That's what they do, and I think people just need to realize that we always have skin in the game. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's why like I pose this question because I often think about Prop 17 and how many people are actually coming home after prison and like registering to vote. Because I hear it all the time. People are like, "Oh, I can't vote. I'm a felon," or "I can't vote. I'm this and I'm that." And it's like, oh my God, right? It's like it sucks, but I'm gonna share some zines in a little bit, and that's what it is. It's like making it accessible for all of us, right? Something we do in the journal that we send inside, like some folks here on the call here, would receive the newsletter that we would send inside. Is like making it so that we're able to understand it, right? These systems were put in place to like keep us out of it, right? And now we're up in the Capitol. Now we're up in our representative's office, right? Like we belong there, you know? Same thing with the ballots, like we belong there, right? So it's just like I love what Raul said is like people don't realize that they always have skin in the game. That law might not pertain to you. And that was me, right? Like I all I cared about was a gun enhancement law when I was incarcerated. But I failed to realize that all these people that are in office, all these representatives, like all these other laws are going to open the doors for future for the movement. Um, so I appreciate you saying that. Checking on time. Any other thoughts?
Well, if I may, you know, like a lot of you know, I was incarcerated for a very long time, too long. So before my incarceration, I never voted in my life. I was barely 18 years old. So when I come out, I find out I can vote. Now, I'm not going to say I'm scared to vote, but like we were discussing, who do I vote for? Because I was so, I guess for the lack of a better word, so disenfranchised for so long. Who do I trust? You know, you understand what I'm saying? Because you understand that when you're in prison, everything is structured. There's really no voting, but you understand that this is the line. You come out here, the line is blurred. This guy is saying one thing, but once he gets elected, he's doing something else. So who can we trust? That's why a lot of people feel like, what's the point?
Very
For
true.
example, my side of the family, they voted Republican. Now they're having buyer's remorse. You know what I mean? Because they drank the Kool-Aid. So, like he was mentioned before, the information is good, but it needs to be shortened dramatically because a lot of people want to know a lot of stuff and they don't want to spend hours just reading. You're going to get fatigued and say, you know what? Why bother? It's just the way it is, bro. But me, I have skin in the game because I want to give back. I know a lot of people put in a lot of work so I can be out here. Even though a lot of these laws didn't affect me, that's not the point. They tried, so why can't I try? Why can't I at least do that for the next guy? That's why I like this initiative justice, man. You guys are awesome. And whatever I can do, I will.
I appreciate you, bro. And I spent a couple of years in there with you, you know.
Yes.
And so we know each other for a good while and have witnessed each other's growth, right? Um,
Mhm.
and so like really, really thank you for sharing that.
Mhm.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts. So Raul,
Yeah. There was a lady, and Efrain, I'm gonna need a little bit of help on this. Uh, there was a lady that was the director of Initiate Justice. I think her last name was Radcliffe. Is that correct?
you still are a director, yes.
Okay.
Executive director, Antoinette.
Okay. There was one of the directors that started another Initiate Justice, but that one was the one that could actually. Uh, when you started this conversation, you said something about that you guys can't endorse any clients. Now, there's another organization that I want to say a sister circuit of Initiate Justice that they actually can advocate for certain people, and maybe that's something that when I think his name was Jose when he was talking about it, he says, "Who do I know? I don't have the time." Well, maybe if that's correct, refer people over there because that's all they do. And a lot of times when we don't have time, like all of us are like-minded, and if we could get an organization that's like-minded, then they're going to break it all down and they're going to tell us who's there, who to vote for, because they're in the trenches and they know who's there, they know who's who. And until we get that familiar, then that's one way that we could go about finding out who's who is finding a organization of like-minded people and following what they have to say.
Yeah,
There it is right there. Initiate
yeah.
justice action. And
Initiate
that,
Justice Action,
yeah,
yes, and
and
that is our sister organization. You are very
it,
much correct, Raul. Yes,
yes, well, I've been following Initiate Justice for a very long time. And maybe that's something that for people that are in this uh, meeting right now that, hey, if you want to know more information, Google Initiate Justice Action and, find out.
absolutely, absolutely, yes. They are the 501(c)(4), so they can do that extra candidate work, ballot measure. Well, we can do ballot measure too, but candidate work, they can endorse and all of that stuff. So definitely encourage folks to check them out. We actually have organizers and members that split time between both organizations. And so definitely explore Initiate Justice Action. Taina Vargas, who is our founder of Initiate Justice as well, also founded IJ Action, as Raul pointed out. So, and she's still the executive director over there, as well as Antoinette being the executive director on the C3 side. So, definitely explore Initiate Justice Action, and I believe we're going to drop some of a resource or two from them as well. So, folks, I want to thank you, F9. He just dropped their
Yeah. And
website in the chat. Thank you.
and for a lot of times, like people like us, well, let me rephrase that. Like someone like me and my family, when we vote in blocks because we think alike.
Mm-hmm.
And for all of us that uh, are part of Initiate Justice and we do this work, that's a sister organization. So that should make voting easier for us as to who are all these people on the ballot. Well, you know what? Initiate Justice Action will break it down for us. And because we're all like minded, they're going to throw a recommendation out there. Hey, you know what? We endorse this person because they have worked with us, they're willing to work with us, or whatever the case may be, and
Mm-hmm.
just vote for that person. So I just wanted
Yeah.
to throw that out there. Uh,
Thank you.
that's we got to use all the resources we can. We have to, stay up to date on what's out there, and I knew that was out there.
Yeah,
All right, thank
absolutely.
you very much.
Oh, thank you so much for uplifting them. I super dope resource, super dope resource. So
I'm
please
like,
go ahead and check out
great
their
segue.
website. Yeah, perfect segue, perfect segue. So go ahead, F9. I'm queued up, ready to drop stuff in the chat. So go ahead, take it
Okay,
away. I'll
cool.
pass it back to
I
you.
already had it too. Um, yeah, it's like a great segue to what we're talking about, right? Like the sharing of resources, right? Like, and we always encourage our community members like to drop stuff in the chat to share resources. We've seen it happen so much in the chat, like connect with folks in person at our events. Um, I always say that one thing I love about Initiate Justice is that we don't gatekeep, right? We share whatever we have, we share the tools, the resources, whatever it is. And I know we're talking about these earlier, is like you see the when is the next election? Am I eligible to vote? How do I vote? Right? But if you look at that, it's accessible. It's easy to read. It's easy to comprehend it and digest that, right? Um, our comms manager, Michelle, she did an amazing job in putting those together. So feel free uh to check those out. They're the zines that we have, and you could also find them on our website. Uh, and we dropped it also right there. It's tinyurl.com/ we vote for us. So if you go on our website and you look for voting resources, they have the zines where you can download them. And they're little, just little foldable pamphlets. If you work for an organization, if you out in the community, like print them out, share them with folks. Like we encourage our community to do all that, right? But it's accessible. It's easy to understand, you know, because I think Jose was saying it earlier, like when you look at the whole thing, it's like sometimes you're like, I'm not gonna go through all this, right? Um, and then Adriana also went ahead and dropped already the resources for other organizations. One of the ones that we're talking about is our sister organization, Initiate Justice Action. Am I freezing?
A little bit.
Okay. Oh yeah, my Wi-Fi is going out. From some resources that I put together from other organizations. And again, check them out. I'm not saying that all of them will work for you, but they're resources for you all. You know, as you go and make your decision by June 2nd, these are some resources that I utilize myself, right? Um, so check those out. I encourage you all as you're making your decisions, have those conversations with your family, your loved ones, your neighbor, whoever it might be, right? Um, any questions with those? No?
I would like to help something with Raul on that. Is that yeah, that's true about IJ Action because they will endorse a candidate. I did some work with Taina Vargas.
Uh-huh.
We endorsed Marissa Roy, LA City Attorney, at Gloria Molina Grand Park. So we had an event there. We did tabling, and she
Yeah,
spoke. And
and
yeah,
that's why I said like check them out. Uh,
yeah,
go become a member with IG Action. They do amazing work,
yes,
and they're able to do that.
yeah.
I got a call to action from our comms manager. We started sharing those zines on our social media, so please reshare those, comment on them, do your thing. Um, and like I said, those zines are also available online on our website. And if you don't have, if you're not able to print those, feel free to reach out to me. I'll drop my email. Oh, thank you, Adriana. My email is right there in the chat. Feel free to reach out to me, and if you're like in the LA area, if you want, you know, a stack of zines or whatever, I could print them out for you at the office, and we could just like coordinate to meet up. Um, and also we're gonna drop some upcoming events here shortly. Thank you. So if y'all haven't checked it out, this is the second year for the Impact to Action Reunion Resource Fair. It's gonna be right there at Exposition Park. It's coordinated by Assembly Member Shadia Hawari. I went last year. It's amazing. It's beautiful. It's community. There's resources, tons of resources for system impacted folks. Um, it's a good time. it's definitely a good time. I will not be there this year. Sadly, thank you, Alyssa, for holding it down. But Initiate Justice will be there. Alyssa and Adam will be there tabling as well. If you want to get involved in budget, we had a conversation. We had a conversation about budget earlier. Um, there's another event with Budget to Save Lives, who is a community partner of ours. And there's another event by CCWP that's up in SAC. So if you can make it, cool. And then another Zoom meeting with California Alliance for Parole Reform. So I do encourage folks that have gone through the parole process to join these meetings with Caper, because they're helping out family members, loved ones of people that of folks that still have loved ones inside that are going through the parole process. So I always say, y'all are the experts. I never went through a parole process. Y'all are the experts in that, but I do encourage folks to join that. We're gonna have
Sign me up.
Yeah.
all right, cool. We're gonna have a mock hearing on the 9th, June 9th. It's all via Zoom, so I hope you guys join. Any questions for me? Any other thoughts from my team?
You said that was June 9th?
June 9th, correct. It's a Tuesday.
All right. Tuesday. Okay.
We'll say all these links, we're gonna set them in the recap email too, so if you didn't grab them right now, you'll get them later.
Okay.
All right,
June
y'all.
9th, at what time?
It's gonna be at 6 p.m.
6. Okay. Nice. Okay.
Yeah. And we're a part of that coalition, so that's why we work with them. It's a bunch of organizations that come together to provide these resources and stuff like that. So I'll remind you too, Jose.
Yes. 'Cause I went to the Pro Board 11 times and I got a lot of questions.
Oh, you're really the expert.
I had 4 hearings.
That's why I say y'all are the experts.
Yeah.
Any other questions, thoughts? I got you guys out of here on time.
Oh yeah.
I appreciate y'all.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate you. All the staff. Yeah.
Bye, y'all. Thanks
Thanks
for hanging out.
everybody for
Oh,
being
thank
here.
you. Thank you, Frank.
Yeah.
Yep.
Everybody have a good night.
See y'all next
Have a good
time.
night,
Good night,
everyone.
y'all.
Yeah.
You guys have a good
Night.
night. You need any help, just call.